Welcome back to the second part of this week's lesson. We left off on Wednesday. We were talking about how Esther kind of had this ultimatum thrust upon her where she needed to go and see the king to tell him that Haman had these terrible plans to just kill all of the Jews. And it was a possibility that the king could have killed her in that time when she went to go see him. But it's also true that she would have died anyway because she is a Jew, and so she would have died with the rest of the Jews because of Haman's terrible plan. And so she said to Mordecai that they were going to fast and pray for 3 days before she went to go and see the king. And so they did that. And then she went and saw the king, and he extended his scepter to her, which gave her grace in that moment that she was not going to die. And because she had found such favor with him, he asked her, is there anything, what is it that you want? I will give you anything up to half of my kingdom. I will give you absolutely anything your heart desires. What is it that you want? And she said, well, I want you to come to a banquet that I am preparing for you and bring Haman along too. And that way we'll have a great banquet together. And the king said, okay. And so that's where we left it off. And so now we're going to pick up with that banquet.
So both the king and Haman went to this banquet, and the whole thing seemed to have been very extravagant. But Esther was then, got a lot of, favor with the king because of this banquet. And the king again extended what he said before, saying, well, what is your wish? Right? This is amazing. This is wonderful. Just ask whatever that you want, and I'll give it to you. And Esther, although we would think that at that time Esther would reveal what was happening and what was the really crucial matter that Esther was trying to bring to the king about the Jews, that they were going to die and that she was a Jew, she instead says, you know what, I would like to make another banquet and bring also Haman to that banquet, and then I'll make my request. Pretty odd, but this may have played into what would be the timing that God wanted. But for now, Haman left this banquet, amazing. He felt so wonderful about himself, about how he was, not only was he the right hand man of the king, but also the queen just was so gracefully gave him this wonderful banquet too. So he was just had all of the highest spirits until he runs into Mordecai again. And the moment that he sees Mordecai, he is enraged. He is sad and mad because he knows that Mordecai is not going to bow to him. And all of that, wonderfulness that he was feeling at that moment just disappeared. So at that point, he's like, I need to get home and I need to talk to someone because this is just terrible because Mordecai, it just ruined my day.
And so what Haman actually did was, because he knew that Mordecai was a Jew, he had his own special plan for how he was going to kill Mordecai when that day came. And so he started making gallows to be able to hang just Mordecai. He didn't care about any of the other Jews, but he was going to hang just Mordecai. Now on that same night, actually, it seems like the king couldn't sleep. He was having just a terrible time getting to sleep and staying asleep. And so what he did was he had somebody come, bring him some of the old record books where things had been recorded. And usually these are probably pretty boring. So I think that his idea was, if somebody could read me what's been happening over this last week, maybe it'll be just boring enough that I can go back to sleep, and that'll be great. So this person starts reading the records, and the person gets to the part where just a little while ago, Mordecai had revealed to somebody that they were going to kill the king, and that it was true, and Mordecai had basically saved the king's life. And the king was like, well, have we done anything to honor him for what he did? And it apparently hadn't been recorded anywhere in those books that Mordecai had been honored for that. And so the king said, you know what? Because he saved my life, we need to make sure that he is properly rewarded. We need to make sure that he is honored because he truly did save my life here. So at the same time that Haman is deciding to kill Mordecai, the king is actually deciding to honor Mordecai. And it's just this really bizarre twist of what's actually happening here. And so, as Haman's trying to come up with ways to kill Mordecai, the king's throwing banquets of honor for Mordecai and being like, making sure that Mordecai has what he needs, making sure that he is rewarded properly. And that's where we're going to leave off there before we get to the next banquet.
Yeah. So it's the contrast is just amazing, because now we have two different perspectives that are just like coming together, that of the king and that of Haman. And at one moment, they're going to talk about this together. So we will wait until that moment. But for now, stay tuned.
And we'll see you next week.